Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Charlie Mike, hosted by me, Mike Buchanan. This podcast is here for you to stay up to date with all things VA while at the same time getting to know veterans and others who are either continuing the veteran mission post-service or are helping us continue our own missions. So today, we're going to be hearing from Kevin Bowden, an Army veteran who is currently volunteering as the Wounded Warrior Project's local peer support group leader here in Dallas, Texas. So, Kevin, welcome.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Not much, dude.
Are you excited about this?
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. This is going to be good, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I promise that I'm going to try to make this as least amount of boring as possible.
Our conversations are never boring.
Yeah. So, context. Kevin and I are like best friends in the outside beyond this, but I thought he was a good veteran to kind of bring on to the show because I think that you really embody what, a veteran looks like that is continuing like the mission. I mean, at least I do, because you remember that I met you when you were like severely torqued. I'm going to use torqued as like a nice terminology.
No, torqued was not where I was at. I was tortured.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it sounds sad, but I think a lot of us, who are in the service, I was Army veteran, 7 years. I did 2 deployments to Afghanistan. I know you were Army veteran. How many years were you in?
12.
12 years. Yeah. And then you deployed as well, correct?
Yeah, I deployed. I did 4 deployments.
4 deployments.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. That's a lot of deployments.
It is.
Jeez, I thought 2 was a lot. Can you imagine 4? Oh, boy. Yeah, that's a lot. All right. But yeah, when you and I first met, you weren't doing too hot.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No, you weren't doing too hot. But now look at you.
Yes. I look at myself every day.
Yeah, it's insane. But I think it's great, right? I think it's great. And I think that that's what this podcast is really going to be all about, right? Is just being able to really feature some of the veterans who, it's not easy to write a lot of the things that, either society sees with you as wrong or we see in ourselves as what we feel like needs to be fixed. It's not easy. It's a lot easier said than done, right? I think that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's why it's good to really highlight and show how veterans can overcome a lot of treacherous obstacles to eventually come back and.
Yeah. And it all boils down to, if you're willing to put in the work, there's nothing you can't overcome.
Yeah, well said. Well said. All right, so let's get to it, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what really made you want to join the military?
I don't really have a big selfless patriotic story for wanting to have joined the military. Mine was, I wanted to get out of some situations I was in, and the military provided that. It was small town, had some family issues. It's like, you know what? If I join the military, I can get out of here and I can get away. They'll teach me how to do all these other things, and I can get out of here, and then I can become a better person. So that's why I joined, and lo and behold, so that was in the 90s. So 25, 30 years later, hey, it took a while, but I am a completely different person and much better for it.
Yeah, very true. So while you were in the military, what did you do? What was your job?
I had a couple. My first job was a generator mechanic. Hated it, but that was one that they needed. It was, and I got suckered into it. And then my family, because of my family's business, they're like, hey, if you do generator thing, then we can use you afterwards. And I was looking out for, future life. Well, that didn't pan out. And like, you know what? So I reclassed into 12 Bravo combat engineering. Fantastic. Loved it. Wish I had done that from the get-go.
Yeah, because you get to blow stuff up.
Oh, it's just not blowing things up. I mean, it's the demolitions, fortifications, it involves so much. It's the actual application of science on the battlefield. It was fantastic.
I've never heard of it said like that, but actually, that does seem pretty cool. I mean, not as cool as being a Cav Scout, but it's It's cool. Yeah, because if you ain't Cav, well, no, man, because if you ain't Cav, you know how the rest of that goes.
I hear you say it all the time. But you guys sit on the back on a hill and pick your nose and whatever.
No, because we're like, hey, engineers, we need you to blow that up for us. Thanks. Mm-hmm. We're as close as it gets to the Air Force and the Army. Right?
I mean, it's still, anytime somebody needs something, it's like, hey, where's our sappers at? Hey, we can't go there. Watch this. When we go there.
Yeah. No, that's really true. And honestly, I kid and I jest, but in Afghanistan, you guys came in handy a lot. I mean, like, there's a lot of VBIDs, and I'm sure, like, you went to Iraq, and I'm sure there's a lot of VBIDs over in Iraq, and there's just a lot of IEDs over in Iraq, and just overseas in general when you're over there. And that's who we really depend on. We really depend on the combat engineers, and we depend on, rock clearance people and things like that. And you guys have a dangerous job. Like, it is dangerous. I know people think it's dangerous to be blown up, but like, they don't realize that even the safer that the vehicles get, the more danger it actually puts our service members in. Because when the vehicles are that safe, they're like, oh, no. See, here's the thing. When this bomb hits this vehicle, it's going to blow the tires off. It's going to blow the engine out, but everyone inside is going to be completely safe. Well,
that's horse crap.
That's not true, right? And then imagine how many times, like, if because now we don't have scratches on us, but you got to get back into the fight because now nothing's physically wrong with you, right? And so now you have to go back and then what if the next day you get blown up, and the next day you get blown up, and the next day? I know that. Did they have, while you were overseas, did they have the how many times you can get blown up before you get sent home?
All right. So as we were on my 4th tour, they had this rule: 3 times and you're done. Within the first week, the whole company is like, all right, what are we doing? Oh, crap. On my last tour, I was blown up 49 times.
Like, yeah, that's a ton. Yeah, I know. I saw that all the time during deployments, right? I saw it all the time. And it's, I equate it, people were like, well, that's crazy. Like, if they said 3, like, just go home. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. So that would be like saying every, a football player, a major league, an NFL player can only get tackled 3 times, and then that's it. They're done for the season. Could you imagine that?
It made us, what we realized was, and even our chain of command was, if you put that limitation on, you made us combat ineffective, and then there wasn't enough units to replace us, and it's like, well, suck it up, drive on. And that's what we did. And, like you were saying, the equipment we had was supposed to make us safe. But we've got one piece of equipment that is designed to, when it gets blown up, it pops apart like Legos. And the dude that's in it is sitting in this little capsule, just like laying on the ground. We're like, you good? Huh? Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then you go back together and you take and you put it back together and you drive off again.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I mean, it does, here's the thing, I will give them this. I think that at least they try to learn from their mistakes, right? I mean, we've tried as a military, we've tried to learn from a lot of our mistakes and a lot of things that led to unneeded death, I guess. Now we have Crow systems where, it's basically an automated turret. It's not automated, but it's a man-in-the-loop system with a turret on top where we basically control the turret from inside the vehicle, which keeps everyone safer, I think. But, yeah, I mean, getting blown up 49 times, though, in a deployment, I think that may have an effect physically on you. Would you say that?
Yeah, it's had sarcastically, a mild effect on my life.
Yeah, mild. Okay. Yeah, we'll go with mild. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, with the interactions that we have, even before, because that wreck that I got into, before I got into that wreck, I would stumble through words and lose time and do certain things. And I had a 10% rating for TBI. Okay. But now that I've gotten into a car crash, just having that little bit there, it set something up for what was, didn't seem like nothing, but it really made things, it gave a base for something that was, if somebody else got into a wreck like what I got into, it would have nothing ever happened. But now here I am really struggling because of
Yeah, just a car wreck. Just a car wreck can change. Yeah, and I think that's why civilians I don't think really understand that sometimes. We give briefings a lot, in the VA to like new employees and things like that are getting here, where we'll talk to them and we'll say like, listen, veterans are they have 5 to 7 times more likely to be sick, right? With major illnesses, they have 5 to 7 major illnesses, right? Or something either major or minor.
Yeah.
But that makes us sicker than the average bear, I guess, right? And it's because of most of the things that we've been exposed to, or the pressure, or the things that have we've put our bodies through in the name of pride. Pride mostly, right? Or not to be made fun of, or whatever the pressure was, that's coming down from higher ups.
Yeah.
But we've put our body through some absolute hell, and I think that people just don't realize that sometimes. It's not just being overseas and just being in a wartime, but it's also just the natural wear and tear of what we put ourselves through.
Yeah. That
causes our bodies to just degrade so much faster. I tell my wife, I said, yeah, I may be 35. I said, but I'm in a 70, like a 65-year-old, 70-year-old body at 35. I said, I can only imagine what I'm going to feel like at 65.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct, because naturally we're competitive, and you put a platoon size element or even a squad size element of people that are as competitive as we are together, we're not going to be outdone. Where are we pushing? And that's how we survive in combat. But to get us combat ready, we push and we feed off of each other, and we try to take it and continuously keep going. So, like for me, I had a training incident and I tore all the tendons and ligaments out on my foot. I fell off the side of a mountain. I walked on that for a week in garrison and went and worked. And it's like, I'm just going to tough it out, because I thought it was a sprain. Nobody else would have ever, it's like, what's going on? Why did you do that? Well, I just thought it was going to go away. Just keep going, keep pushing.
Yeah. What are my other options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that brings us to a really good point. I know that you and I have both been through a lot. I know you went through a lot in deployment, and I know you came back with some, mental health stuff, and so did I, and I know both of us went inpatient.
Yes.
To kind of take care of some of that.
Yes.
How did that work? How did you feel about that? Where did you go? Did you use VA?
When I first came out, before the Army decided to medical me, I went and I tried to seek treatment. And this was in mid-early 2000s, where mental health was not really understood very well. And if you went to get help through the Army, they were automatically going to go, poof, you are gone. Because like, oh, you're gone. So I tried to go outside. And when I went to outside and I was explaining my situation to psychiatrists and psychologists, they're looking at me weird, like, the only solution for you is we're going to lock you up. I'm like, okay, goodbye. And then I finally had to admit it to the Army, and then they put me out. Okay, that, fine. And then I went to the VA, because it's the only place that I could find that wasn't going to treat me like a complete and total lunatic. And they had an idea of what I had been through. Whereas going outside, they're looking at me going, we don't know what to do with you. Well, that treatment, the initial treatment from the VA was really rough. And I had some issues come up that not so pleasant.
Made you not want to use the VA again.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then, over medicated me, and that was also the time where it's like, here's a pill. Let's just pill for everything, and then a pill for the side effects, and a pill for that. And I ended up taking a shoebox full of pills that I didn't know who I was, where I was at, and losing bodily function. And I got hemmed up in the whole, nobody could get an appointment thing. All right.
Yeah. Plus, we talk about it a lot, but just for everyone that's listening, I know that this is going to sound like an excuse, but it's really not. It's actually the truth. But once you've been to one VA, you've been to one VA.
Yes.
Like not every VA is very different. I don't understand that. Never have working for the VA. Why the VAs are so absolutely just night and day different. But you could go to one VA, like even here in like Dallas Fort Worth. Like you could go to Dallas and get not great service in one clinic, and then you could go to the clinic right next door and get like the best service of your entire life, or go to Fort Worth and get the best service of your life, and then go to Dallas and not get great. I mean, you just never know, right?
And that's the point I was getting ready to make. Was this was care I was getting in North Carolina from where I just left Fort Bragg, and then I leave there and I come here, and then fast forward a couple of years where I couldn't get care. I meet you, and you talk me into coming back to the VA, and because I thought I was handling things, and you're like, nah, bro.
I think that's important, though. I think it's important to have somebody to kind of like be your, I call it my Rock of Gibraltar, but it's someone to be your lighthouse. I think it's important.
So yeah, I thought I was handling it. I wasn't. And then you talked me back into coming back, and we found a program that was down in Waco that was a residential PTSD rehabilitation program. It was like 8, 9, 12 weeks. I went down there, and that's where I finally, and this was in 2017, it took me 7 years to find a program that I actually got the real help that I needed, that could help me dig into my issues, correct some medications, and start helping me transition. So prior to that, I spent 7 years in a very rocky, rough transition.
Yeah, I and you're right. I think when you came back, you were totally different, and I think it's a really good topic to really talk about, because I think that if you wouldn't have kept going, and technically the VA saved your life. Let's just say, right? Yeah. I mean, the VA completely changed, or at least VA services completely helped you rewrite, your story and where it was going. And I think that that's important to note, because just because you have bad experience, right, with one service does not mean that you're going to have that same experience everywhere you go, or every program that you try to go to. Correct. Or every doctor, or every nurse, or every, front end staff member, or whatever. I think it's wild to me to just blanket, statement. Like, I hate that. I hate that, right? When people blanket statement, where they're like, well, I hate the VA. And I'm just like, okay, well, which part? Well, they don't pay me my VA disability or whatever. They won't pay me out what I'm supposed to get. And I'm like, yeah, but why do you hate the doctors? Well, because they're the VA. And I'm like, yeah, but they're the VHA. They have nothing to do with you getting paid, bro.
Yeah, it's different departments, different. Those are the people that are trying to help you versus the ones that you're angry that aren't paying you a higher disability rating because you think you deserve it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? Or like when someone's like here in the local area in Dallas, someone will be like, no, I'd rather go see UT Southwestern doctors. I'm like,
same people.
It's the same people. Wait, I know that you don't know that, but it is. So ta-da! You already are. We have a lot of doctors that, actually are, the professors at UT Southwestern who work there a majority of their lives. And, and I know UT is always seen as like one of these, really good medical centers, here, one of the best, in this area of Texas. And so I just laugh, I chuckle on the inside, I might not correct them all the time, but I just chuckle. I'm just like, if you only knew,
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's such crazy things. And I think though that, talking about like our era, I think that our era doesn't do enough to advocate for our age group. I don't know how you feel about that, but I just don't feel like we do. I mean, I feel like, that the Vietnam veterans do, right? I mean, everyone knows that the, Vietnam veteran, if something's not right, a Vietnam veteran would be like, this isn't right. Like, you need to fix this now. Cause like, you're not gonna treat me like this, but like our era, we're like, nah, it's kind of like cancel culture. They're like, nah, I'm just gonna not go there.
Well, one of the biggest,
it doesn't fix anything.
One of the biggest things that I learned in the 7 years it took for me to get the help that I needed was that advocacy for yourself. You go in, and it's because when you're in, You go in, you go to TMC, and they say, "All right, yes, this is wrong. This is what's wrong," and you're bang, 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 and you're done. You're out. Okay. You come here, and you don't. You never know that you have to advocate for yourself, and if you're not getting what you need, or what you feel like you need, or you think you need something beyond, there are people like patient advocates that you're supposed to go to and say, "Hey, this is what I think I need. This is why," and that's something that most people don't, our age, in our generation, don't know about, is you have to stand up for yourself. And that's something that we could take away from the Vietnam vets that they had to learn. And, they're right. And that's how they've gotten what they need. And that's where, I preach that to my peer support group, is you have to advocate for yourself. Because you are the only person that knows what you need, how you need it, and what care works for you, and how you're getting better.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I say this a lot, and I'm sure I'll say it even more, but the VA doesn't know what they don't know.
Correct.
Right? I mean, like if you come to the VA and you're like, well, the VA should know that this is a problem. Well, how should they know that that's a problem? Like, if you're not coming to them and you're saying like, hey, this is a problem. And if it's just one person, it might be hearsay. If it's two people, okay, maybe we have something. If it's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people all saying the same things, we have an issue. Mm-hmm. Right. And we have an issue and we need to take care of that issue. And I think people maybe just don't think about the large scale picture of it. Right. Mm-hmm. Because it's the same way when we were in the military. It's like, just because you're not in the military anymore doesn't mean that certain systems don't run pretty much like the military, right? If you're in the military and you're like, hey, I don't think it's fair that we have to come in at 4:30 in the morning every morning when we don't even start work until 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, right? And then you're like, okay, well, I complain to, let's say, my commander. Well, my commander is a small, tiny little cog in that big wheel of what's going on, right? And so I think, it's harder. It's easier said than done, right? It's like, no, I'm going to try to make change. And then you're just like, yeah, but not, right? And so but the more soldiers that are like, no, this isn't okay. And then the more that the wives get involved, right? And then the more, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like the more that people, then they're just like, okay, maybe we should have them come in at 5:30, just, you know what I'm saying, right? And so I try to encourage veterans of our age group, or our era, or just every veteran in general, right? To really, like what you were saying, advocate, right? You want to advocate for yourself and you want to advocate for others. Like if you see something else happening in the VA that's not right, or you see something else happening anywhere really that's not right. I have that saying, that motto that I always shoot for. I know Travis Manion Foundation, which is a great foundation. They have the same, motto, but it's if not me, then who? Mm-hmm. Right? I live by that motto. Cause if I see something and I'm like, someone should stop them. Someone should say something. Someone should do something. Someone should do this. And I sit there and think, well, if I don't do it, then who's going to do it? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is probably no one, I should probably get off my butt and go do it. Right? Do you know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just think it's wild, that our era is so, I don't know, they just don't want to be involved yet. And I get it kind of to an extent, a majority of our age group is busy with family and busy with work and careers and, things like that. But I just think it's so important to still be involved at least a little bit with, it's a part of your identity. It's not completely who you are. And I feel like people would get wrapped around that axle of we're just veterans, period.
Yeah.
That is just who I am 100% and nothing else. That's a little out there because we're a culmination of a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
We're a culmination of all of our experiences. We're a culmination of being civilians too. I always tell people I'm just a better trained civilian, right? I'm just a better trained civilian. I really feel like the military was there to train us to just be better, right? To just be better than the average civilian would be. To have morals and values and ethics and ethos and all these other different things that just, give us a greater sense of purpose and make us want to, dig a little deeper, move a little further, right? Mm-hmm. Carry a little more. Just go a little bit, more extra than what the average bear would. Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, okay, going a little bit extra, okay, so I know you're a peer support specialist, but I know this is going to be a little bit of a compound question, but so tell us a little bit about what it means to be a peer support leader, right? for the project, for the Wounded Warrior Project. It's a big organization, by the way.
It's
huge, national. I always tell people it's a multi-billion-dollar cookie jar. I mean, like, it's huge, right? But people are like, well, the project, they suck. And I'm just like, well, they're a multi-billion-dollar veteran nonprofit. Have you seen another one? And then there's usually just silence in the room. I'm like, yeah, there's probably a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
But still, tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a peer support group leader for them. And then why? Like, why would you even want to be a peer support group leader? Like, I know you're dealing with your own stuff, right? I mean, I think that's important to talk about is we deal with our own mess all the time as veterans. And so what would possess us to want to deal with everyone else's at the same time?
Okay, so what it's like to be with the project? One, they surprise me every time I contact somebody in the higher chaining of command to where, hey, I've got somebody that has this issue. Oh, yeah, we've got a special program just for that. It's like, what do you mean? They seem to have all of these special projects and these special organizations that they've partnered with nationally that they're not even all advertised, but they have this melting pot of things that can help so many people. It's not just, hey, free tickets to this, or hey, free tickets to that, or they've got mental health programs. They've got programs for long-term care for the severely wounded. They've got programs for emergency financial aid if you say you lose your job, or even like there's COVID program. There's all sorts of things that they do that are behind the scenes, and all you have to do is pick up the phone and you call their resource center and talk to somebody, and it's like, yeah, we've got a program for that. And if they don't, they may have partners around the country, and they can get you hooked up fast. And because there are people that are interested in making sure that veterans are taken care of, because they are proud of what we did, and they are honored that we have gone and sacrificed. So I enjoy working with them because they may have had some issues in the past and they're trying to work past them, and they're doing a great job. And they are, what they do for everybody. I find, like I said, I find every day there are programs that I had no idea they had. So to be part of that, and to take the 40-something people that are in my peer group, when they come to me with some obscure off-the-wall thing and say, hey, this is my situation, and like, I've got the exact solution for that. And to watch them, that stress and that anxiety and everything just fall off of them and say, you do? It's huge. And to be able to take and give back, fantastic.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I always found I started as a peer support specialist here at the VA, and so I always found that it helped me reinforce my own recovery trainings, right? Like things that keep me mentally healthy.
Yep.
When you're giving back, when you're not just, it's one thing to soak in the knowledge, okay? And to learn the knowledge and really work on yourself. That's the first part, right?
Yes.
And then the rest of it is really upkeep.
Yes.
Right. And so I feel like it's really important to get out there and be a part of your community, or be a part of the veteran community, just even a little bit. I know that a lot of people are not necessarily proud of their service time, or just don't want to be known as that. They'd rather be known as a civilian or whatever it is, but it's still a part of your identity. And I feel like it's still a part that needs to be tapped into a little bit, here and there.
Well, for me, part of it, I went through everything I went through. And for me, being part of this part, one of the best parts about being a peer support leader is I get to draw on what I've learned, and I use that as reinforcement of what I've learned, because I can say, hey, look, this is what I've learned. These are my experiences, and this is how I walked my path, and I share that. And they're like, oh, okay. And it helped. And then that's it helps so many people.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it really does. I think it's great. I think it's great that you're doing that. I think it's just, that's why we're doing this, podcast really is to highlight a little bit, maybe demystify a little bit of the VA, right? Because I think that a majority of what we hear from from the barracks lawyers, let's just put it that way, right? I mean, everyone knows what a barracks lawyer is out there. And if you don't know what a barracks lawyer is, it's because you are a barracks lawyer and no one has enough guts to tell you that you are the barracks lawyer in the group.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's that veteran who feels like they just know everything, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like the go-to person for everything. Like I know a lot. I mean, I know a lot and I'm a go-to for a lot of people in the community, but like, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Like I still have to rely on other team members. I still have to rely on other people that know a little bit more than me or a little bit more well-versed in stuff. I like to tell people I'm the jack of all trades, master of none.
Yes.
I feel like that's the most humblest way of saying it because like I am. I can give you a little bit of information about everything, but if you need more than that, I'm sorry, you got to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, I think it's just really important to demystify a lot of the things that veterans get twisted. And I think that's why we're doing this, and to really talk about what veterans are doing to kind of make themselves as healthy as possible, right? And and as involved as possible.
Yes.
I think you'll notice that the more that I know that you and I both noticed this, and I've talked to other veterans that notice the same thing, is the more involved we are, with things outside of our own stuff.
Yes.
Right? The healthier we always seem to be.
Yes.
And I'm not saying be involved with everybody else's like business. I'm just saying this outside that drama, but just being able to give back to the community, go, I don't know, read books to kids, go, donate your time at a soup kitchen, go do something, right? Join a peer support group. I don't know.
What I try to do is create balance in my life because yes, I deal with the bad, but then I try to counter that with as much good. And that creates a fantastic wave of things not only through my life, but through other people's lives as well.
Yeah, well said. All right, man, we're running out of time,
okay.
but yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Honestly, I really appreciate it, and honestly, thank you for everybody that was listening today. So that's all we got for you. That's our episode. Yeah, look, he's even pointing at the camera. Yeah, all right.
Wait, which one?
Yeah, I know. You never know really which one it is because there's so many of them sitting around here. I know. We got 3 cameras. If everyone watching doesn't know, we got 3 cameras set up. It's weird.
Does that include the one in the bathroom?
There's no one in the bathroom, I promise. All right, so listen, huge thanks to Kevin for coming in and telling us a little bit about how he's continuing the mission. So appreciate it, man. Thank you for all your service. Thank you for all your service post-service. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Georgia Red Clay. That's who you're hearing in the background for the awesome music, whose webpage and information is going to be linked down below. And I want to thank all of you for listening. All right, so we will be putting out a podcast bi-weekly, so make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, etc. at #VA North Texas and at #CharlieMikeVA for our next episode to drop. Also, this week, I want to hear what your thoughts are on why you choose VA for your health care if you do. If you don't, be nice. Because comment sections can get crazy. Okay. All right. Other than that, thanks, and I appreciate it. And just as always, remember, Charlie Mike.
At least I got something left to stand for. Hell yeah!